The billionaire's silence. The city had stopped talking about him years ago, but his name still lived in whispers. Chief Bamidele Alade, the man who built more hospitals than hotels, more schools than mansions. Nobody truly knew him. He was always somewhere in the shadows, speaking through deeds instead of words. Some said he had been a trader at Balagoon Market before fortune found him. Others swore he was an oil magnate who disappeared after a tragedy. The truth was simpler. Bamidele believed that wealth was not meant to be hoarded, but planted, like seeds waiting for rain. His wealth had touched every corner of Lagos. There were wells in Ajage that carried his initials, libraries in Surulere that bore his quiet signature, and scholarships whispered about in university corridors, yet he never appeared for the photo ops, no interviews, no speeches, just the sound of his name on other people's grateful lips. And then, silence. For almost a year, no one saw him. Rumors grew like vines. Some said he had retired abroad. Others said he was sick. When his final video appeared, it broke the city's heart. The footage was grainy. He sat on a plain wooden chair in his old family house in Ikeja, sunlight falling like dust around him. His eyes, old but alive, faced the camera. He said, "I don't want heirs. I want proof that Lagos still has heart." No one understood what he meant until the letters began to arrive. Across the city, 10 strangers found cream-colored envelopes slipped under their doors. Each bore the same seal, a golden A. Inside, a simple note, written in careful ink. "You've been chosen, but you must earn it." No signature, no instructions, just curiosity and confusion. In Makoko, a fisherman named Kunle showed his wife the letter and laughed, thinking it a prank. In Lekki, a tech developer named Chika stared at it for hours, wondering if it was a scam. In Ajegunle, a street vendor named Sade tucked it into her Bible. But as the sun set that evening, somewhere deep in the city, a quiet machine was already turning, one man's final wish about to test the soul of Lagos itself. The challenge begins. The morning after the letters arrived, Lagos moved as if nothing had changed. Danfo still shouted their routes. Arshadoye, Yaba, CMS. Hawkers chased after cars with pure water sachets, and the air smelled like pepper, dust, and possibility. But for 10 people, the city no longer felt ordinary. Kunle, the fisherman from Makoko, kept glancing at the envelope tucked under his mat. The words echoed in his head. "You've been chosen, but you must earn it." Chosen for what? He had never been chosen for anything in his life except hardship. In Ikeja, Nurse Amara adjusted her uniform in the mirror before her shift. She had read the letter 3 times before dawn, her heartbeat steady but curious. Maybe it was from a hospital board? A scholarship program? Lagos was full of surprises, most of them scams, but something about the gold seal felt sacred. In Ajegunle, Sade, the street vendor, showed hers to her best friend, laughing nervously. "Maybe it's a TV show," her friend teased. "You know these people, always doing secret filming." They laughed. The Sade's fingertip lingered on the paper like it carried heat. Days passed. No follow-up, no instructions, just silence. Then one by one the tests began. A man stumbled in front of Kunle's canoe one morning, bleeding from a cut on his leg. The other fishermen ignored him. It wasn't their business, but Kunle's heart tugged. Without knowing why, he stopped paddling, tore a piece of his net, and wrapped the wound. The stranger thanked him softly and disappeared into the fog.
That evening, Kunle found a new note slipped under his door. One act done in silence is louder than 1,000 done for praise. In Sudurele, Chica, the tech dreamer, was leaving a cafe when he saw a boy struggling with a broken bicycle. He almost walked past. He was late for a pitch meeting, but something made him stop. He helped the boy fix the chain, hand stained with grease. Later that night, his phone buzzed with an unknown message. Keep knowing, the city is watching. Meanwhile, Amara faced her own test. At the hospital, a patient cursed her for a mistake she hadn't made. The words cut deep, but she chose not to retaliate. She apologized instead, calming the woman until she smiled through tears. That evening, she found a small folded paper inside her locker. Forgiveness is the rarest form of strength. None of them knew who was behind it. No cameras, no reporters. Only a feeling that the city itself was alive, breathing, testing, and watching. By the end of the week, 10 strangers had begun to change. They moved differently, listened more, give more. And somewhere, in the dark room filled with monitors, a group of silent observers watched every moment unfold, fulfilling the billionaire's final promise, divine proof that Lagos still had heart.
Lagos as a living story. If cities could speak, Lagos would not whisper. It would sing. It would sing in honking donfos racing down a Kurodo road, in market women's laughter that rose above the smell of pepper and palm oil. It would sing in the call of the muezzin at dawn, echoing across rooftops painted in dust and prayer. Lagos was not just a place. It was a living story, written every day by millions of restless hands. The camera glides over Makoko, the floating slum where wooden houses rise from the water like patient saints. Children paddle in carved canoes, chasing sunlight across the lagoon. There is Conley, the fisherman, casting his net with arms strong from years of survival. Around him, life hums, a rhythm of resilience. Cut to Sorolari, where Chico works late into the night in a tiny co-working space lit by solar lamps. The walls are covered in dreams, sketches of apps, plans for clean energy, notes about hope. Lagos rewards dreamers, but only those who refuse to sleep. In Ajije, a mother balances a tray of plantains on her head while her baby sleeps on her back. In Lekki, cars glide past neon-lit billboards settling new worlds. In Ajejgunle, music spills from every corner. Fuji, Afrobeat, hip-hop, each note a declaration. We are still here. The narrator's voice fades in, calm but strong, almost like the city itself speaking. In Lagos, your name is not what you were called. It's what you do when nobody is watching. The camera lingers on the 10 chosen ones, each unaware of each other, their paths slowly bending towards the same destiny. Their stories unfold in small acts of kindness, in quiet tests that no one else notices. Amara, the nurse, leaves home before dawn to serve patients in an underfunded clinic. When her salary is delayed again, she still shows up, humming softly to calm a crying child. Conley fixes the linking roof on an old widow's hut without accepting a word of thanks. Chica teaches street kids how to code using his laptop. Sade gives away extra food to strangers who can't afford it, pretending she overcooked. These are not heroes, just people. But in their ordinary goodness, Lagos begins to glow differently. The film slows. Market colors bloom like paintings. Rain falls on thick rooftops. Donfo conductors shout blessings between insults. Every sound tells a story of survival, laughter, endurance. Omoluabi, the narrator says, it means a person of good character. It is who we are when no one is watching. It is what the chief wanted to find. The city doesn't know it yet, but the tests have already changed it. In small, invisible ways, Lagos has begun to remember its heart. And somewhere under the hum of generators and the chaos of dreams, 10 strangers are becoming
more than participants in a challenge. They are becoming mirrors of the city's soul.
The hidden tests. The letters had stopped, but the city hadn't. Lagos kept breathing, fast, loud, alive. Yet for the 10 strangers, something inside had changed. They felt watched, not by cameras or people, but by fate itself. None of them knew that deep inside an old warehouse in Victoria Island, 10 screens flickered under dim light. The Billionaire's team, lawyers, scholars, filmmakers, sat in silence, eyes fixed on each monitor. They weren't looking for perfection. They were looking for truth. The tests were not written anywhere. They were hidden in the chaos of daily life, woven into the choices each person would make when they thought no one was watching. Kunle's test. It started on a stormy night in Makoko. Kunle had caught enough fish to feed his family for a week when he saw a young boy stealing from his canoe. The boy's eyes were wide with fear, his ribs sharp like secrets. Kunle's anger rose fast, but then he saw the boy's torn shirt, the hunger in his face. Slowly, he handed the boy 2 fish and said, "Next time, just ask." That moment was caught on one of the hidden cameras. The observers nodded quietly. "Compassion under pressure," one whispered. Amara's test. At the hospital, the strike had begun. Nurses were told to stay home until management paid their salaries. But Amara couldn't ignore the patients, especially the old ones who had no one else. Every day she came back in plain clothes, cleaning wounds, giving medicine she bought with her own money. Her colleagues called her foolish. They said, "The hospital doesn't care about you." Amara smiled. "It's not about the hospital." That night, her hidden camera feed showed her gently covering a sleeping child with her only blanket. Chika's test in Sulore. Chika had a breakthrough. His solar-powered kiosk finally worked. He was about to sell the design to a private investor when he discovered the man planned to patent it and block board communities from building their own. Chika hesitated for hours, staring at the contract. In the end, he tore it up and uploaded the design for free online. The team watching from the warehouse erupted in quiet applause. "That's the Lagos we remember," said the oldest among them. Sade's test. Her turn came in Ajigunle. A stranger approached her stall, claiming to have lost his wallet, and beckoned for food. Sade hesitated. She'd been cheated before, but something in the man's trembling voice softened her heart. She gave him her last bowl of rice, not knowing that the stranger was one of the Billionaire's secret agents. When she went home hungry that night, she didn't feel regret, just peace. By a week's end, every participant faced their own unseen trial. Some passed, others failed, choosing pride, fear, or greed. But those who acted with hearts began to shine through the screens. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the warehouse, the chief's words echoed once more through the speakers. "Wealth means nothing if the soul is empty. Find me the ones whose hearts still beat for others." Transformation. Change never arrives with drums. It comes softly, like dawn slipping between curtains, unnoticed until the room is full of light. For those who had been chosen, the tests had passed, but something deeper had begun. Kunle awoke before sunrise, as he always did, but the water of Makoko seemed different now, calmer, almost listening. Since the night he gave the hungry boy his fish, people had started coming to him, asking for advice, for help. He didn't have much, but he gave what he could, repairing boats, mending nets, sharing his catch. One afternoon, he noticed a group of street kids watching him work. Instead of chasing them away, he smiled and taught them how to paddle, how to tie a net. Soon, laughter filled the lagoon again, small ripples of kindness spreading far beyond him. Amara was exhausted. The hospital strike still dragged on, and her pockets were empty. But every morning, she returned to her clinic. She had begun treating patients outside under a mango tree using what little medicine she could find. Word spread quickly. Mothers started bringing their children. Old men came limping from miles away. Someone called her Angel Nurse. She laughed at that, but deep down she felt something shifting. Purpose growing roots where bitterness might have lived. Then, one evening, she saw a man shivering by the roadside. Harmattan had arrived early, the wind biting through clothes like knives. Without thinking, Mara took off her only coat and wrapped it around him. "You need it more than I do," she said softly. The man didn't answer. He simply nodded and disappeared into the fog. She didn't know it, but that single act would echo further than she could ever imagine. Chica was restless. Since giving away his invention, investors had stopped calling. But messages poured in from students, engineers, and small communities across Nigeria. People building his solar kiosk using his open design. Videos flooded social media, villages lighting up at night for the first time. He realized then that he hadn't lost money, he had found meaning. Sade's stall in Agachegon had grown busier. Customers said her food tasted different now, as if seasoned with peace. She had started feeding children who came hungry, charging nothing. At first, it hurt her pocket, but something strange had happened. More people began buying from her, blessing her name. And so, through ordinary lives, a quiet revolution took root. Legos began to shift, one unseen act at a time. The observers in the warehouse watched in awe. The Billionaire's team had expected drama, conflict, spectacle. What they found instead was something pure. People becoming better, not for reward, but for the unseen beauty of doing right. But life like Lego's traffic always takes unexpected turns. For while goodness was growing, news arrived that shook everything. Chief Bamidele Alade, the silent billionaire, had passed away in his sleep. The man behind it all was gone, and none of them knew what his final choice had already set in motion.
The reveal. The city felt heavier that morning. Lagos moved as usual. Buses honking, street vendors shouting, children chasing footballs. But for the 10 chosen ones, the air was thick with uncertainty. The letter had said nothing about a meeting, yet, one by one, they arrived at an old, unassuming building in Victoria Island. No cameras, no audience, just a room with 10 chairs and a low wooden table. They looked at each other with quiet suspicion. Kunle, Amara, Chica, Shade. They were strangers, connected only by acts no one had noticed. Then the doors opened. A man stepped forward, thin, gray-haired, with eyes that held both sorrow and pride. He introduced himself simply, "I am part of Chief Bamidele's team. He has passed, but he left something for you." The room fell silent. The man gestured to a stack of folders. "Each of you has been observed, every action recorded. There was no test of intelligence, wealth, or strength. The only measure was character, heart. Those who acted without knowing they were watched were chosen, even though none of you knew it at the time." Kunle's mouth went dry. "So, it wasn't about money." The man smiled. "It was never about money. Chief Bamidele wanted proof that Lagos still had heart, and he found it in each of you, but only one embodies it fully." Gasps filled the room. Faces turned toward Amara.
The nurse from Ikeja. The man continued, opening a folder showing the footage of her giving her only coat to a shivering stranger. She gave without an expectation, without recognition, without hesitation. That is the act that defines the spirit Chief Bamidele sought. Amara's hands trembled. Tears bowled in her eyes. She looked at Kunle, Shed, and Chika, all of whom had also acted selflessly. We all tried. That is exactly why the chief loved you all. Each of you transformed yourselves, your communities, and even the city itself. But he left us for the one who gave completely, without thought for reward. Silence, though. Then slowly, Amar stood. Her voice shook, but her heart felt steady. I don't know what to say. I didn't do it for recognition. You don't need to say anything. You already did everything that mattered. Now is your choice how to use what he left. He handed her an envelope. Inside, 1 billion naira. But the weight of it was nothing compared to the responsibility it carried. Amara looked around at her fellow participants. We can't just take this for ourselves. The city, our people, they deserve this too. And for the first time that day, the room smiled, not for money, not for fame, but for a lesson learned. Giving without seeing, loving without being cast, living with heart. This is the true inheritance. Outside, Lagos breathed. The streets, the markets, the laughter, the music, they had witnessed everything. And though the city never knew the billionaire personally, it had seen itself reflected in the courage, kindness, and compassion of a few ordinary people. Chief Bamidele's last wish had been fulfilled.
The winner. Amara walked out of the building into the busy streets of Ikeja, envelope clutched tightly in her hand. The 1 billion naira felt heavy, not just in value, but in responsibility. Her heart raced not with greed, but with questions. How could this money truly serve the city she loved? How could it honor the life of the man who had watched silently? The first thing she did was simple. She returned home, laid out the cash, and prayed. Not for herself, but for guidance. She knew Lagos didn't need more wealth. It needed opportunity, care, and hope. By morning, she had made her decision. She would build a free clinic in her neighborhood, a place where no patient would be turned away for lack of money. Alongside it, she started a scholarship fund for children who dreamed but lacked resources. She met local teachers, nurses, and community leaders. Together, they sketched plans on cardboard, on walls, and in coffee shops. Dreams took shape where chaos once roamed. Word spread fast. Social media lit up with her story. Pictures of Amara handing over the first keys to the clinic went viral. Videos showed her helping street children, teaching them hygiene and reading, even distributing clean water. She never sought the camera. She barely acknowledged it. But the city had eyes everywhere. Kunle sent her a message. I saw what you did. You didn't just win. You multiplied the chief's heart in Lagos. Chika uploading plans for community solar kiosks near the new clinic. Sadi began cooking meals for children attending the clinic. Lagos, in its messy, vibrant way, had started glowing differently, one act of selfless giving at a time. International media picked up the story. Newspapers in London, New York, and Johannesburg ran headlines. Lagos nerves transformed 1 billion into hope. But Amara never left the city. She didn't need to. Her story was about home, about people who breathed the same dust, felt the same heat, and dreamed under the same stars. Every day she walked the streets of Ikeja, not as a billionaire, but as a witness to the city's pulse. Children waved, others nodded, hawkers smiled. She realized the gift wasn't just money. It was trust in human goodness, a trust to multiply. Months later, the clinic opened its doors.
The ribbon wasn't cut by a politician or celebrity, but by Amara herself, standing quietly with the first patient in her arms. Laughter and hope filled the air. Cameras captured it, but her heart had already seen it. In her office, she pinned a simple note on the wall. We give not because we have, but because we can. And in giving, Lagos lives. The billionaire's legacy was no longer hidden. It was alive in Amara, in the streets, in every act of kindness the city had witnessed, and in every heart that chose to give, even without being watched. And so Lagos didn't just remember its heart. It beat louder, brighter, and with purpose for the whole world to see.
The legacy. The sun rose over Lagos like a golden promise, casting long shadows across the bustling streets. The city moved, as always. Buses honking, street vendors calling, children laughing. But something had shifted. A quiet energy lingered in the air, invisible yet undeniable. Lagos had learned that giving could ripple farther than anyone imagined. Amara stood on the rooftop of her new clinic, looking out over the city she had always loved. From Makoko to Lekki, Ikeja to Surulere, life continued. Messy, chaotic, beautiful, but now threaded with small acts of kindness that seemed to multiply endlessly. The billionaire's message echoed in her mind. Africa doesn't need saviors. It needs storytellers. She understood now. The 1 billion naira had been a tool, not the goal. The real gift had been the chance to show the world the heart of Lagos, its resilience, generosity, and soul. And she had chosen to share it, not keep it hidden. In the weeks that followed, stories poured in from every corner of the city. A young boy in Makoko started tutoring neighborhood children for free. A market woman in Ikeja forgave the thief who had stolen her goods and shared her harvest anyway. Chika's solar kiosks powered clinics and schools across Lagos, while Sade cooked meals for children every morning before opening her stall. It was as if the billionaire's invisible hand had nudged the city awake, and now Lagos was choosing to keep moving forward on its own, one small act at a time. Amara recorded a short message for the world. Kindness doesn't need an audience. Generosity doesn't need reward. If we tell our stories, we inspire others to live theirs. Her words spread like wildfire. News outlets, social media, and bloggers shared the story. But the heart of it, the lessons, the courage, the humanity, belonged to those who lived it every day. The camera pans over Lagos one last time. Rooftops glistening after rain, boats floating on lagoon, children kicking tattered balls through narrow alleys, hawkers balancing trays of food with practiced skill. The city itself seems to pulse with pride, resilience, and possibility. A text appears on the screen, almost like a whisper to the viewer. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Johannesburg, there are stories waiting to be told, hearts waiting to be discovered. Africa doesn't need saviors. It means storytellers. As the sun dips below the horizon, the city glows, not because of wealth or lights or fame, but because of ordinary people who chose to give, forgive, and transform, without knowing they were being watched. And somewhere, perhaps in the wind that dances between rooftops, or the laughter of children by the lagoon, Chief Bamidele Alade's final wish lives on. Quiet, profound, unstoppable. If you were given 1 billion naira today, how would you use it to change your community? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Heart. Share one act of kindness you've seen in your city. Bell. Subscribe for more real African stories that remind the world we still have heart.
The legacy. The sun rose over Lagos like a golden promise, light spilling across rooftops, lagoons, and lives forever changed. Amara stood on the rooftop of her clinic, built not with wealth, but with faith. Below, laughter echoed, children running, mothers talking, life reborn. She thought of Chief Bamidele Alade, the man who gave everything to prove Lagos still had heart. His message lived on, in every child healed, every meal shared, every kindness unseen. Across the city, miracles multiplied. Chika's solar kiosks lighting night classes, Sade's food stand feeding the hungry, Kunle teaching boys to fish instead of fight. Amara smiled at the sunrise. He was right, she whispered. Africa doesn't need saviors, it needs storytellers. The screen fades to black. If you were given $1 billion today, how would you change your community? Comment below. Share kindness. Subscribe for more real African stories.